There is a moment when you realize you have been bracing for years. Not for a specific disaster, not for a threat you could clearly name, just bracing. Your shoulders slightly lifted even at rest, your breath never fully dropping into the body, your muscles holding a quiet readiness as if something might happen. And then, almost without ceremony, something changes. The body finally feels safe. Not because life became perfect, not because every problem was solved, but because you stopped living as someone who must stay on guard. Stay with me until the very end, because what you'll understand then is that health was never meant to be achieved through control. It was meant to emerge from safety. Most people believe their body reacts to life, but in truth, the body reacts to identity, to the role you believe you are playing, to the version of yourself you think you must maintain to survive. This is why two people can live in similar circumstances and inhabit completely different bodies. One lives with ease, the other lives with tension. The difference is not resilience, it is not genetics, it is not discipline, it is safety, or the absence of it. Many bodies today are not sick, they are alert. Alert in a world that taught them that relaxation is risky. From a young age, the body learned patterns. Stay ready, stay sharp, stay available, stay useful, because usefulness felt like protection. And slowly, without anyone noticing, the body learned to live in a permanent halfway state. Not fully relaxed, not fully activated, just waiting. Waiting for the next demand, waiting for the next responsibility, waiting for the next emotional shift in the room. This is not anxiety as a diagnosis. This is vigilance as an identity. What if your body never truly rested because it never believed rest was safe? Think about how often your body actually lets go. Not lies down, not stops moving, but lets go. Releases the jaw, drops the shoulders, allows the breath to deepen without instruction. For many people, this almost never happens spontaneously. Relaxation has to be earned, scheduled, justified. And even then, it is shallow, because the body doesn't trust the pause. It has learned that stillness often precedes demand, that calm is temporary, that the moment you relax, something will require you again, so it stays ready. This readiness is not a flaw, it is intelligence, formed under the belief that safety depends on vigilance. But here is the truth most people never hear. The body does not need to be convinced to heal. It needs to be allowed to feel safe. Neville Goddard spoke of states, not symptoms. Because symptoms are expressions, states are causes. A body that feels unsafe will create patterns that reflect that state. Tension, fatigue, pain without clear origin, cycles of relief and relapse. Not because the body is broken, but because it is loyal to the identity it believes you are. If you live as someone who must constantly manage life, the body becomes a manager. If you live as someone who must stay alert to survive, the body becomes a guard. And guards do not rest. There was a man, let's call him Daniel. Daniel exercised regularly, ate well, did everything right, yet his body never felt at ease. Even during vacations, his shoulders stayed tight. Even during sleep, his jaw clenched. Doctors found nothing wrong. But Daniel felt something was always about to happen. Years later, after no physical intervention changed this, something else shifted. He stopped living as the one who must hold everything together. Not dramatically, quietly. He stopped anticipating collapse. And something remarkable happened. His body followed. Later he said, "I didn't fix my body. I stopped scaring it." Pause here with me. Take one natural breath, not deeper, just honest. If your body is starting to recognize this truth, leave a simple declaration in the comments. My body is safe. Then let's continue. Most people believe the body relaxes when circumstances improve, when work settles, when money stabilizes, when relationships calm down. But this is rarely what actually brings relief. Because the body is not waiting for circumstances. It is waiting for permission. Permission to stop monitoring. Permission to stop scanning. Permission to stop preparing. Vigilance is not the result of danger, it is the result of learned responsibility. At some point, the body learned that it had to stay awake for life. Not emotionally awake, physically awake. Muscles slightly engaged, breath slightly held, attention slightly forward. This posture becomes so familiar that it no longer feels like tension, it feels like normal. And because it feels normal, it goes unquestioned. What if the reason your body never relaxed is because it believed you needed it to stay ready? The body listens very carefully, not to your words, to your posture toward life. If you live as someone who expects interruption, the body prepares for interruption. If you live as someone who expects to be needed at any moment, the body never fully powers down. If you live as someone who believes rest must be earned, the body treats rest as temporary. This is not conscious, it is relational. The body relates to the identity you inhabit. So when identity integrates, when you stop seeing yourself as the one who must hold everything, the body notices. Not immediately, but unmistakably. This is often when people report something subtle, not healing miracles, not dramatic releases, just quiet. They realize one day that their shoulders are lower, that their breath has changed, that silence feels less threatening. They didn't do anything. They stopped being someone who needed to be alert. There is a profound moment when the body realizes it is no longer on duty. This is not collapse, it is relief. The kind of relief that doesn't ask for explanation. The kind that feels like coming home after being on watch for years. You may notice this first in moments you didn't expect. Standing in line, sitting in a car, waking up before thought. The body drops a layer, not all at once, layer by layer, because safety is not imposed, it is recognized. This is why health cannot be forced, because forcing is the language of threat. The body does not heal because it is ordered to, it heals because it feels safe enough to redirect energy, from defense to maintenance, from vigilance to regeneration. Neville never spoke about the body in clinical terms, but when he spoke of states, he spoke of total embodiment. A state is not a thought, it is a posture, a tone, a way the body inhabits space. And when the state shifts, the body follows, not out of obedience, out of loyalty. You may notice that symptoms soften without being addressed directly. Sleep improves, digestion changes, breath deepens. Not because you fixed anything, because the body stopped defending. Defense is expensive, and when defense ends, energy becomes available. There is often grief here, grief for how long the body stayed alert, for how much it carried silently. But that grief does not destabilize, it integrates, because you are no longer asking the body to protect you from life. You are allowing life to support the body. If you're noticing small sensations right now, warmth, heaviness, softness, that is not imagination, that is recognition. The body recognizing that it is allowed to stand down. For most of your life, safety meant watching. Watching your reactions. Watching other people's moods. Watching timing, tone, outcomes. The body learned that if it stayed aware enough, nothing would catch you off guard. Monitoring became protection. But monitoring is not safety. Monitoring is prevention through tension, and tension never rests. What if the body never felt safe because it was never allowed to stop watching. Monitoring looks subtle. It looks like thinking ahead, like planning responsibly, like being on top of things. But the body experiences it differently. To the body, monitoring feels like, stay alert, don't relax yet, something might change. And because the body takes these signals literally, it stays engaged. Muscles stay active, breath stays shallow, digestion slows, sleep lightens. Not because something is wrong, but because the system believes something might be. Safety does not come from knowing what will happen. It comes from knowing you don't need to prepare for everything. When identity integrates, monitoring softens. You still plan, you still respond, but you stop supervising every internal movement. You trust the moment to meet you, and this trust is felt physically. The body does not need certainty. It needs permission to stop guarding, and permission only arrives when you stop living as someone who must anticipate. This is often where people feel vulnerable, because without monitoring, there is space, and space can feel unfamiliar. The nervous system may ask, what if something happens and I'm not ready? But slowly, gently, the body discovers something else. Nothing happens. Life continues, and you are met. This is the moment when the body learns a new lesson. I am not alone in this. That lesson is everything. Health begins here, not as symptom removal, as capacity to rest inside experience. You stop scanning for danger and start inhabiting your body. You feel gravity again, weight, support. The floor feels real. The chair holds you. These are not metaphors, they are signals. You may notice that you stop checking yourself as often. Am I okay? Am I tense? Am I doing this right? These questions soften, not because you ignore your body, but because the body no longer asks to be managed. This is when healing accelerates, quietly, because the body finally has resources. Energy that was spent on vigilance is now available for repair, for balance, for renewal. Neville spoke of feeling as the secret, but feeling is not emotion. Feeling is embodied conviction. When you feel safe, your body reorganizes around that assumption. Not symbolically, biologically. You may notice deeper sleep, fewer inflammatory flares, calmer digestion, reduced muscle tension. Not because you targeted these outcomes, because the system is no longer bracing. This is the paradox. Trying to be healthy often keeps the body alert. Allowing safety allows health to appear. If this state of safety feels recognizable, if your body is responding without effort, there is a 21-day for Create Your Dream Life challenge linked below. Not to fix the body, not to monitor health, but to stabilize this inner safety so the body remains supported instead of supervised. Explore it only if it resonates. Now, let's move deeper. When the body finally feels safe, it doesn't just relax, it reorganizes. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but rhythmically. The body begins to move at a pace that was always natural, but long forgotten. This is where many people feel disoriented at first, because the old rhythm was driven by urgency, by anticipation, by pressure, by the sense that something always needed to be addressed. The new rhythm feels slower, but it isn't. It is accurate. What if the body was never meant to live at the speed of anxiety? An anxious rhythm feels fast, but it wastes energy. It rushes digestion. It shortens breath. It fragments attention. A safe rhythm feels spacious, not empty, spacious. The body moves when it needs to, pauses when it completes, and doesn't apologize for either. This is why people often mistake safety for laziness. They confuse the absence of urgency with the absence of movement. But the opposite is true. When urgency leaves, movement becomes clean. You do things once. You recover faster. You stop revisiting the same internal loops. The body no longer runs simulations of catastrophe. It trusts sequence. This new rhythm shows up everywhere. You eat more slowly, not intentionally. You speak with fewer filler words. You stop rushing transitions. And because of that, you actually arrive where you are. Presence stops being an idea. It becomes physical. The nervous system loves rhythm. Predictable rhythm signals safety. Not predictability of outcome, predictability of self. The body learns, I don't have to react impulsively. I don't have to brace. I can respond when needed. This is maturity at the cellular level. You may notice something subtle. You stop waking up already tense, not euphoric, not energized, neutral. And neutrality is a gift, because neutrality means the body is no longer scanning for threat. The old rhythm was fueled by adrenaline. The new rhythm is fueled by coherence. Adrenaline creates intensity. Coherence creates endurance. This is why safety doesn't make you fragile. It makes you resilient. A calm body adapts better than a vigilant one. You may also notice that your tolerance for noise decreases, not because you become sensitive, but because your body no longer needs stimulation to stay alert. You seek quieter environments, cleaner conversations, simpler inputs. This is not withdrawal, it is regulation choosing nourishment. As the body learns this new rhythm, symptoms that once felt permanent begin to lose authority. They may not disappear overnight, but they stop defining you. You stop organizing your life around them. And this, paradoxically, often allows them to resolve. You also stop chasing peak states. You don't need constant stimulation to feel alive. Life feels full without being loud. This is one of the most profound signs of safety. The body begins to trust time again. Healing no longer feels urgent. Rest no longer feels conditional. You stop asking, when will I be okay? Because okay feels closer, not perfect, present. This is the moment where health stops being a project and becomes a condition. Not something you manage, something you inhabit. Here is the truth that was quietly waiting underneath everything. Health was never the goal. Safety was. Health was always the response. For so long, you may have tried to fix the body, to improve it, to optimize it, to manage it carefully, not because you were obsessed, but because somewhere inside, you believed the body needed supervision to survive. But the body does not need a manager. It needs a home. And a home is not built through vigilance. It is built through presence. When the body finally feels safe, it stops asking to be fixed. It stops signaling for attention through discomfort, not because it has nothing to say, but because it is finally being heard. Safety is listening without agenda. Safety is not trying to correct sensations. Safety is allowing the body to exist without being evaluated. This is where most people misunderstand healing. They think healing is the removal of symptoms, but healing is the end of internal conflict. The moment the body realizes it is no longer at odds with the one inhabiting it, that it doesn't have to shout to be acknowledged, that it doesn't have to stay tense to stay relevant. You may notice now that your body feels more like you, not an object you live inside of, not a system you must manage, but you. And when that separation dissolves, something fundamental shifts. The body no longer needs to protect itself from you. This is why safety changes identity. You stop seeing yourself as fragile. You stop seeing life as something you must brace against. You become someone who can receive experience without immediately preparing for harm. That is not naivety. That is integration. You may still experience discomfort. You may still have days where energy dips, but the relationship has changed. Discomfort no longer feels like danger. Fatigue no longer feels like failure. The body is no longer interpreted as a problem to solve. It becomes a signal, and signals don't scare you. This is where compassion becomes physical, not a concept, a sensation. You treat yourself differently. You move differently. You rest differently. You speak differently, even internally, because safety softens everything it touches. Neville spoke of states as realities, and safety is a state. When safety is assumed, the body reorganizes around that assumption, not symbolically, not philosophically, physiologically, because the body always reflects the identity being lived. This is why nothing needs to be forced now. You don't need to chase health. You don't need to watch yourself constantly. You don't need to stay on top of your body. The body knows what to do when it is not being threatened by expectation. If your body feels quieter now, not numb, but settled, that is not loss of vitality. That is grounded life. Vitality no longer needs to announce itself. It sustains. If you're noticing a softness as you listen, a drop in the shoulders, a deeper breath without instruction, that is not coincidence. That is recognition. The body recognizing that it is finally allowed to exist without defense. And from this place, everything else reorganizes. Work becomes gentler. Time becomes kinder. Money becomes quieter. Because safety is the foundation that everything else rests on. If this way of living resonates, if you want to stay near this rhythm, stay aligned, not by fixing yourself, but by choosing spaces that speak to your body in the same language. This is not about subscribing to a channel. It's about remaining close to a way of seeing life that does not require tension to function. If being here reminds your body that it is safe to exist, then staying connected is simply choosing not to forget. Because from here on, your body does not need to be guarded. It needs to be lived in. And that changes everything.